2024 was not a good year for Ubisoft. Between the layoffs and the games that just were okay but not great, yeah, 2024 wasn't good. And sadly, all the promises they made us about returning back to their former glory with their games like Outlaw, it just didn't work. And now 2025 is not starting off any better. As a matter of fact, 2024 was so bad that 2025 Ubisoft might not be the same Ubisoft anymore. Yes, I think 2025 is the year where Ubisoft gets sold off. And just so you guys know, that is the plan for Ubisoft to be sold off, most likely to Tencent. So let's talk about that. As of me recording this video, there is reports, credible reports, that you're going to see that Ubisoft has put a team together to look into them being acquired. Again, most likely by Tencent, but that is a report. Ubisoft as we know it is probably going to be gone in 2025. And it is very noteworthy that that this report for them getting bought out came out the same day their next game, Assassin's Creed, got delayed again. But it's only delayed for another month. So that might actually not be a bad news. That might be really good news. Because here's the thing. Delaying a game for 1 month generally means you delayed it because you're trying to fix some kind of bug. And after all the releases of Ubisoft games last year really just not being up to par and having a lot of bugs.
Whoa.
Jeez.
Okay, there's your proof.
Yeah, I actually think it's a really good call for Ubisoft to say, let's hold this game back 1 month to fix those bugs. However, there is one other really big reason games get delayed, which is to move away from another game. And in February, that game that you don't want to compete with, that's Monster Hunter. Now, 5 to 10 years ago, Ubisoft would be the game that other games would move out of the way from, so they don't have to compete with it, because you don't want another big game eating into your sales. And the honest truth is, Ubisoft cannot blame anybody for all of this except for themselves. This is their own fault. They got to where they are right now, mostly by doing two things that people just kind of got tired of. Number one, their games haven't changed, as in their big games really haven't changed in a really long time. And even though it is known as the Ubisoft Formula, where you just kind of go around and just do a bunch of checkpoints, at this point, after 10 years of that same formula for 2 games, because remember, Far Cry and Assassin's Creed kind of use the same checklist system. So 2 games for the past 10 years, I think people are just kind of getting tired of it. Even hardcore Ubisoft fans are asking Ubisoft to kind of evolve this formula a bit and just kind of make it more fun. And as we saw in their last game that came out, this formula really hasn't really changed, and it really hasn't been improved in really any way. And that's the problem that we're having right now. People are just getting sick of the Ubisoft formula. Secondly, all of their new IPs that they've tried has completely failed. Do you remember Hyperscape? That was in collaboration with Twitch, hoping to jump on that Twitch train, and that game completely failed. It went nowhere, even with Twitch's help. Oh, and secondly, X-Defiant, the game that was supposed to be a competitor to Call of Duty, that game completely failed as well. So every new IP that Ubisoft has had in the past, well, I think 5 years, just hasn't really worked out, and audiences have not taken to them at all. Secondly, their own IPs. They announced, I believe 2 years ago now, that Splinter Cell was gonna come back as an IP because that's what fans have been asking for. Well, guess what? 2 years later, we still haven't heard anything about Splinter Cell. We don't even know if a Splinter Cell game is coming. So that's where Ubisoft is right now. As a company, they're just not in a good spot, and it makes sense that they are really considering selling themselves to somebody like Tencent. But here's the thing though, when it comes to Tencent, I need to tell you, a lot of gamers are really quite nervous about Tencent owning somebody like Ubisoft, mainly because Ubisoft has so many good IPs in their past that we're kind of worried about what Tencent is going to do with them. Now, Tencent isn't even a bad company. They're really not. It's just that they're the kind of company that makes games primarily for money. And that's kind of the one thing that Ubisoft wasn't doing explicitly. The reason why Ubisoft was so great is because Ubisoft didn't go after trends. They started their own trend and they created something great. And they did it for a long time. And now you're telling me they're following trends, it's not working, and now they're going to pivot, and their pivot is to sell themselves for trends. So this is the worry that if Ubisoft goes to Tencent, Tencent is going to do things with those Ubisoft IPs primarily for making money, which means they're not going to respect the integrity of those IPs and what those IPs mean to gamers. If you ask most gamers who are in tuned with the industry, they would say that they would prefer if Ubisoft does not go to Tencent. The question is though, who else can buy Ubisoft? Microsoft could, except they can't because they're still getting over their big acquisition of ABK, Activision Blizzard. So right now, they're not in a place to go and buy another major company that's going to cost them upwards of 30 to 40 billion. So yeah, logically, Tencent is kind of the only company that has the resources and the time and the space to buy somebody like Ubisoft. But again, this isn't the preferred answer because one big thing happens after acquisitions, which is massive layoffs. And Ubisoft is already guilty of some of the biggest layoffs in the past 5 years. So now you're telling me that they're going to sell themselves to Tencent, which means even more layoffs are coming. So again, that's why gamers are a little bit miffed about this whole thing. And we would prefer if Ubisoft stays Ubisoft and just get their act around. But Ubisoft has been losing 10% market share for the past several years. And this year, again, they're projected to lose another 10%. So again, they can't keep losing market share. Eventually, they're going to have to turn it around or just sell themselves off. So that's why I say 2025 might be the final year of Ubisoft as a company as we know it. Even if the name remains the same, after 2025, it might not be the same company.